Okay, call the meeting to order. As a result of the order in council recently issued by the province of Ontario and the Municipality of McDougall declaring an emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as requirements for social distancing, this committee council meeting will be held electronically in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001. I would ask the clerk now to take a roll call to determine quorum and advise who is participating in the meeting today. Mrs. West.
Mayor Robinson.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Constable.
Present.
Councillor Gregory.
Present.
Councillor Malott.
Present.
Councillor Reiner.
Present.
It is determined that we do have quorum to proceed with the meeting. I will now take attendance of staff to advise who is joining us today. Tim Hunt, CAO.
Present.
Chief Ledoux.
Present.
Tim Dixon, Chief Building Official.
Present.
Nick Thompson, Public Works Manager.
Present.
Steve Goman, Environmental Services Supervisor.
Present.
And myself, Lori West, Clerk.
Okay, a reminder to council that movers and seconders for all motions have been assigned. If when the motion is read, you would prefer to not move or second a particular motion, please advise me at that point. And now call the meeting to order. Any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Prioritization of the agenda. No changes. Adoption of minutes. Moved by Councillor Constable, second by Councillor Ryman, that the minutes of the committee council meeting held on June 17, 2020 be adopted as circulated. Discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. You really got me looking around in circles now for hands and nods. Reputations, none scheduled for tonight. Planning and building. First item, report of the chief building official, building permit activity update. Mr. Dixon.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just a report basically till the end of June 2020. We were wanting to track as much as possible our activity due to the COVID pandemic, just to see how it's affecting permits and revenues and that sort of thing. It started a little bit slow this year, but it turned out we're still, as of the end of June, we're tracking a fair amount higher than 2019 already. Yet to be known how that's going to play out through the entire year, but at least it's good news. We issued quite a few permits in the last month. The phone activity is insane right now. There's just like so many people here, and the inquiries about porches, additions, things like that are really going crazy. And building activity is, again, as I said, up from last year at this point. So just basically an update for council.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? That's probably not good in terms of trying to keep a handle on all that stuff, but it's certainly good for the township and the economy that there's that kind of activity out there. It speaks well.
Yeah, no, it's a good sign. If people are busy, I'm busy, and it's good for the area.
Good. Item 6.2, John Jackson, Prairie Sound Area Planning Board, consent application B10 2020 for Dwayne Kavanaugh, 3 New Rural Rots, McDougall Road. You put that resolution on the table first, and then we can discuss it. Moved by Councillor Malott, second by Councillor Gregory, that the Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of McDougall has no objections to the approval of consent B10 2020 as applied for by Dwayne Kavanaugh on part of lots 1 and 2, concession 7, geographic township of McDougall. Now the Municipality of McDougall subject to the following conditions. 1, approval of driveway location to the satisfaction of municipality's public works department, conveying any portion of McDougall Road 10 meters from the center line of the road to the municipality, obtaining 911 addressing, payment of the required fee in lieu of parkland as set out in the municipal fee bylaw, and payment of any applicable planning fees. Sure, Mrs. West, is this for you, or Mr. Jackson's joined us, I think?
Mr. Jackson is available to answer any questions and to explain the application.
Mr. Jackson?
Sorry, good evening, Council, Your Worship. Straightforward applications. Can you hear me fine, Council?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can't see you. Oh, it was better when we could just hear you.
Okay, so I apologize for the COVID haircut. The application, as the resolution would cause you to conclude, is fairly straightforward, meets the provisions of the planning document. So unless there's any questions, the resolution that Lori's prepared looks fine.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council or staff? This, no? All right, sounds like they're good sized lots, the new ones that are being developed. But and it still looks like there's still quite a bit of access into that big parcel at the back from the look of this.
Yes, that's correct, Your Worship.
If there's no comments, then and no additional conditions, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's carried. Item 6.3, Prairie Sound Area Planning Board, consent application for Fred Staub and Susan Ruger, 3 new rural lots, Lock Aaron Road. I'll put that resolution on the table. Moved by Councillor Gregory, second by Councillor Malat, that the Council for the Corporation of Municipality of McDougall has no objections to the approval of consent B11-2020 as applied for by Fred Staub and Susan Ruger on part of Lot 3, Concession 4, Geographic Township of Ferguson, now the Municipality of McDougall, subject to the following conditions: approval of driveway location to the satisfaction of the municipality's Public Works Department, conveying any portion of Lock Aaron Road 10 meters from the center line of the road to the municipality, obtaining 911 addressing, payment of the required fee in lieu of parkland as set out in the municipal fee bylaw, and payment of any applicable planning fees. Mr. Jackson.
Again, Your Worship, Council, pretty straightforward. These lots will comply with the OP and zoning bylaw requirements. Unless there's any questions, I don't see any issues with respect to this application.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from staff? Please. Okay. These lots aren't quite as big as the previous, but they still meet all the conditions.
Councillor Gregory, Councillor Campbell.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Gregory. There.
Just one question. Will these people who purchase these particular lots have access to Vowles Lake where the municipality had made that entrance?
Mr. Jackson.
These properties will not have any entitlement tied to the lots for access to the lake.
Right, but they aren't that far from that particular spot, are they?
They are not, Councillor Gregory, no.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
Mrs. West.
There is access through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Gregory in that small walking access that we have right at the boundary. That would be their only means to the lake.
But these are not water access lots, so they have the road to access their property. So they would just be like any other ratepayer in McDougall. They would have access to that public access that's there, but that's, everyone has that, but they don't need that access, if that was what your question was. No, okay. All right, any other questions or comments? No, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's carried. Any matters arising under planning or building? No. All right, okay. Good night, Mr.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bylaw enforcement, report of the municipal law enforcement chief, potential dangerous situation callouts. Mr. Leduc.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report speaks to an incident that occurred approximately a month ago. And just to re-familiarize everybody, we share our municipal law enforcement officers with Seguin and Town Perry Sound. all of our officers work together collectively as a group in the different municipalities. One of our officers was attending a call after dark in one of our neighboring municipalities and was assaulted. As a result of that incident, I've reviewed the safety plan for our officers while they're working in McDougall. Having completed that review, I didn't think that there was any benefit for us to risk the officer's safety in attending certain types of calls after dark. And mainly they work on their own, or even if they work with a partner. So these types of calls would be like noisy party complaints, parties with potential alcohol involvement, large groups or gatherings of people after hours. Because of the nature of the type of person that is at these events or these incidents when we might arrive, the recourse for us is really just to tell them to that they're being noisy and they're disturbing the neighbors and to stop. Oftentimes it may not be effective and we may have to go back multiple times. So looking at the potential benefit for us to do that at that time versus not attending, collecting information by speaking to the complainant over the phone, gathering the information, and then attending the property the next day, preferably after 11 a.m. in the morning, after people have had time to wear off some of their night's events. At that point, then we can take the information at the property that is the offending, and at that time we could still issue POA Part 1 under our noise bylaw for noise disturbing the inhabitants of McDougall. We don't have to witness it ourselves. We would be able to have witnesses if required for court action from the complainant. So thus, after the review, I felt that it was important for us to take the step of, I developed a new standing order for our officers, which I am recommending council support, that basically states what I've just said, is that we would not physically attend during the actual occurrence, but we would go back, we would go there the next day to follow up and potentially lay charges at that time. Following that review for our municipal law enforcement officers, reviewed the call out procedures that we do for the fire department, not to the same type of situations, but somewhat similar. So after dark, we get burning complaint calls, we get fireworks complaint calls that are being lit off during fire ban times. Sometimes the fire calls that we go to for fire complaints, they end up being, sometimes a little bit of a noisy party, a little bit of a gathering of people. We have not had any incidents yet, but I did do that review. So the implementation of some of our safety features from the standing order from the municipal law enforcement officers, I put into the operational guideline for the fire department, which speaks to, we would attend, but we would attend as a full fire crew on one of our fire pumpers. And then accompanying that fire crew would be the investigating officer, either myself or one of my other officers that have the authority to enforce our POA charges under our fire bylaw. And we would attend with the fully crewed fire truck. So my recommendation is that the two attached operational guideline and standing orders for fire and municipal law enforcement be adopted by council.
Thank you. Any questions from council on that? Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to know if there was any charges laid for that incident.
Sure do.
Your Worship, yes, the OPP did lay charges in that incident. And there is, I believe, an August court appearance will be the first appearance.
Right. Any other questions or comments on the recommendations of Mr. Leduc? Okay. For us to adopt this, do we have to adopt this by resolution, or does council just give direction to adopt this operating procedure change?
Your Worship, you could just give direction to staff.
Okay. So I guess I'll just ask by a show of hands to council. Council, all those that are in favor of supporting these changes to our operating guidelines? Okay, so it looks like everyone's in favor. So we'll consider showing in the minutes that council has adopted these new guidelines then, these operations. I think it's good. I mean, it's one thing to maintain our bylaws and the safety of our residents, but it has to be balanced at all times with the safety of our staff as well as they're out there doing this. And we are in definitely changing times these days where what worked a few years ago doesn't work as well today. So I think this is a good balance between all that. Good. And item 7.2, before the municipal law enforcement chief, municipal permit and park bylaw amendment. Mr. Leduc.
Your worship, between the last council meeting and now, we ran into some incidents that required us to review, or I did a review of some of our bylaws that we had implemented and made changes and amendments to this spring with regard to municipal permits and municipal parking on different properties. One of the things that we ran into that sort of prompted this review again was one of the municipal staff at one of our waste management facilities noticed a page of photocopied municipal permits on the dash of a vehicle. He quickly got that permit number and passed it on to me. We did our investigation and we found who the permit holder was. We revoked that permit because it was a series of, on the one piece of paper that we saw were 9 photocopies of that permit, which certainly would be against our controlled number that we try to do by actually numbering our permits. So during the review of the bylaw, we noticed that there was some inconsistencies in wording, some inconsistencies in the powers of revocation when it came to permits. So we've adopted and made those changes in the amendments that are before council tonight. So some of the wording we changed to reflect proper naming of facilities all throughout the bylaw. We've requested some amendments and changes to how the permit issuance and permit revocation policy takes place. We've also, since the bylaw was being amended, we've also run into some incidents where down at Nobel Beach, we've discovered vehicles with trailers parked at Nobel Beach. And Nobel Beach does not have a launching facility. So we just surmised that people who did not have permits, because these vehicles we discovered did not have municipal permits on them, launched at George Hunt, drove their, and so somebody drove the vessel over to Nobel Beach. Somebody else drove their vehicle to Nobel Beach to park for the day because a permit's not required there. They hopped on their vessel and they went out and enjoyed Georgian Bay in a blatant attempt to circumvent our bylaw and parking down at George Hunt. So one of the additions that we're requesting in here is that at Nobel Beach Park, that no parking by a vehicle with an attached trailer or no trailer by itself would be permitted in the parking lot. So that would be a POA offense under the amendment. And then, so that is, those are the main changes that we have other than the grammatical wording and the addition of the revocation under our Schedule G, which we're recommending.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Right. So we have that bylaw coming up under the bylaw section a little bit later tonight, so we'll deal with it then. Point. All right. Thank you for that. It's unfortunate people seem to always find a way to get around what we're trying to do, but certainly having boats coming and going out of the Nobel Beach area where people are swimming is just not a good, safe practice at all doing it. So I know there was some discussion about, there's a dock there is a swim dock during the swim lessons, and that portion, I'm not sure. I think staff had some discussions. Is coming up in your report later on, Mr. Hunt. Okay, so I'll leave. I won't steal your thunder then. Leave that for then. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Leduc. Any matters arising under bylaw enforcement? No? Okay. Fire protection, report of the fire chief, operations update, Mr. Leduc.
Your worship, just a very simple explanation of the last little while since the last council. just an update on the training. We continue through the month of July with our 5-person group training sessions. We will keep that into effect for the rest of July and do an evaluation at the end of July to see if we're going to move into a 10-person allowable training sessions for August. But we will do that review with myself, the officers, and also the members of the department to see what their wishes are. Under just a general explanation, again, under the fire danger rating, because more people are paying attention to the fire danger rating because there are more people up at their properties for a longer duration because of what's going on with COVID-19. And certainly I'm fielding a lot more phone calls and emails from people, asking how does this occur when we set the fire danger rating, once per week for our area, and they see the M&R's provincial website page going up and down every day. So just an explanation there for council so that they're aware if ratepayers question them. And the main reason why we set once a week, based on fire indices, based on weather activity, based on forecasting, and what's specifically happening across our area, is because between all the municipalities, we probably have about 40 fire signs, and we don't have the ability to change those every day or every couple of days throughout the week. Right? That's why we try to do it for once a week to be fair, and that's in the explanation. And then with regard to our enforcement, council was aware that we did have our bylaw passed by the Superior Court of Justice and our set fines and short form wording. So this is the first fire season where we've had the ability to do POA Part 1 charges on site, which up until today I've issued 3 during the last 2 weeks during our fire ban. So we've issued 3 POA charges.
Thank you for that report. Any questions on that from council? No. All right. But I think when you're setting the fire rating, there is some adjustment by municipality, right? After the Wednesday setting. I noticed this past weekend when we had a heavy rainfall on the Saturday, it was a downgrading at the fire rating. So that's up to every fire chief by municipality for that one. Through the Duke.
Your worship, yeah, this occurs probably only once a fire season every couple of years where we actually would do a midweek change. And it was based on, again, a very similar situation where we set the fire danger rating on a Wednesday. But then the forecasted weather of precipitation actually does fall in potentially more amounts than predicted. So what happened on Friday, there was more rain that went through our entire area rather than just sporadic through the area, but most of the area did receive the rainfall in a decent amount. And to ensure that the public continue to trust our judgment and the information that we put forward, we felt on Saturday morning when I got on the phone to the different fire chiefs to discuss it, we felt that we needed to make that midweek change just to reflect the actuals, what we were finding on the ground for fire indices, and to lower it based on the precipitation so that people would remain trustworthy of our judgment when we do make changes to the fire danger rating. So it was one of those rare events, but we did it.
Okay. But I agree. I mean, if you have throughout the whole region a heavy rainfall like we had there, and then to have a fire ban in place, then you're going to have people starting to question it and be tempted to break the law. So I think it's wise by yourself and your fellow chiefs to make a call like that when it's called for. Okay, thank you. Any matters arising under fire protection? Okay. Emergency management, COVID-19 emergency response, declaration of emergency. We still are in a state of emergency in McDougall. I think our general consensus has been that we're going to leave our declaration in place until the province lifts theirs, or we have some other overriding reason to lift ours. At this point in time, I haven't seen or heard that, but I'll just ask any comments from council or staff in terms of leaving our state of emergency in place. Okay, we'll just leave it as it stands. Any matters arising under emergency management? Okay. Recreation, report of the Director of Parks and Recreation. 2020-05, general update. Mr. Leduc.
Your worship, very self-explanatory with regard to the first parts of the report under our maintenance section and our facilities. When we get down into the George Hunt boat launch, one of the changes too that we recommended on the bylaw is coming up at the end of the meeting is we did put in a very clear section in there about detached trailers at the parking lot, that we made that a prohibition. In the past few weeks, I did tow a trailer that was detached out of the facility. 2 reasons: it didn't have a permit, and it also did not have a Ontario plate on it. So it was towed out of the facility. But just to make it very clear, so we've added that section in. Then when we moved to Nobel Beach, one of the things that we've been noticing with regard to probably some, for various reasons that may be particular to this year, that being COVID-19 and some of our neighboring municipalities with not having open washroom facilities at their beaches based on what they felt was necessary and safe for their operations. Our washrooms were open, our beach was expanded, our parking lot was expanded. So it caused certainly more people to be enticed to go there. We've noticed that. And some of the other things that we've noticed is that just doing some general walkthrough in the parking lot, looking at the vehicles that are there and the users at the beach, it's probably, safe to say 60 to 70% of the users at times have no permits on their vehicles. So we surmise that they're from other municipalities or out of the area. And to ensure that we, maintain space for our people, so we did some questioning. We've asked some people that we were down there. We had some of our municipal enforcement officers that were recognized by persons from other townships, approach them and strike up conversations with them. In some of those conversations, we became aware that businesses from other areas in the tourist industry were actually bringing people from their municipalities to Nobel Beach specifically because we had open washrooms and ample parking and a large beach area. So I just wanted to, in my report, bring that to council's attention so that you were aware. And I do know that we've been getting some, not necessary complaints, but certainly complaints plus calls to the municipal office, just saying that there seems to be an awful lot of people down here that don't belong. And what are we going to do about it? So I just wanted to bring that to council's attention.
Councilor Ryman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Leduc brings up a good point. I myself was down at the beach not too long ago, and quite a crowd of people down there, and having paid attention to the vehicles and stuff like that, a high percentage of vehicles were tagged. And I wonder if it's worthy of a discussion of ratepayers only at our beach. So I'm not, I don't know if I want that recommendation or not. I would like just I guess put it up for discussion.
Okay, well, if you put it up there for discussion, you can lead the discussion.
Thank you. So basically,
Obviously, I'm just saying, obviously you have an opinion about it, so you might as well start with that opinion. I'm sure other councilors will weigh in on it, so, okay.
yeah, I do.
All right, the floor is yours.
I think that like we do maintain our beach. It's maintained by our staff. They work hard. Our staff has done a lot of work down there. And I think, in my opinion, what could happen is it might be another George Hunt case to where we get more, and I want to be careful what I say, but more visitors than we do, more out-of-town vehicles than we do residents there. And that's what I'm afraid, because I know that when I was down there, there was quite a few people down there. I didn't see anybody turning away, but I just, once again, I want to reiterate, we're the ones that do the work to that beach. We're the ones that spend the money on that beach, and we're the ones that maintain that beach. And yes, we want to have it for everybody's enjoyment, but I don't want it abused. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ryan. Any other comments from council? Councillor Constable?
To play, I guess, a bit of devil's advocate on that, because I do agree with you that we should have it available. I know even with my own family, they would run into issues where they would be meeting up with other family members that are not from this municipality, but just trying to, meet up together. And especially in COVID, we've been trying to keep a very close knit bubble with family members. But then that would really, then they wouldn't be allowed to go down there anymore. And so then in a roundabout way, we would be not allowing families to meet up and spend time together, because now they're not allowed to be there. So then they would have to find somewhere else or not spend that time together.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very tricky situation.
It is.
There's no great answer either which way. It's, but
I get your point.
I think other Councillor Gregory or Councillor Malat, do you have any comments at this point on this issue?
I do.
Councillor Gregory?
Your worship, I also think that as much as I don't want hordes of people down there either, we do want to encourage the tourism aspect of it as well. I know that certainly the wharf here in front of me is just loaded with people every day, and they're partying down there until 11 o'clock at night. And maybe it's just the boys down there that haven't got a bar to go to, I don't know, but it's busy all the time down there. So I wouldn't expect anything less to be happening up at Nobel at this time. I mean, that's it. I don't know what to do about that.
Councillor Malat?
Yes, I haven't had the opportunity to be out there, but customers had expressed that there was large crowds there and non-locals. That's all. I haven't heard any complaints about it as much as just notification. So it certainly is going to become a problem, I think, in the future, but how we address it, I don't know. Wasaga Beach, we're not, but I guess we're pretty close right now. But I don't know whether we charge for non-municipal vehicles or how we cut it down or what we do, but it's something we certainly have to keep on our radar and, be aware that if we are going to have a problem, I think, in the future.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Constable?
I think the problem is that our staff is doing too good a job, and so maybe they should address that.
Okay, I'll just put my comments on the record. I'll pass the chair to Deputy Mayor Constable, just for this in case I get unruly. It is a tough question. I mean, McDougall ratepayers, taxes have paid for that facility to be developed to what it is. It is an excellent facility. You can certainly see why people want to be there. It was our intention all along to make sure it gets lots of use during the summer, and that's why we want people there. It was never our intention for it to become Wasaga Beach North for going on. I don't think we're quite there, but as Councillor Malat alluded to, we could at some point get to that stage. But I also think right now it's kind of we're looking at a window that our time is created for us. You've got COVID-19 right now where people have a lot more recreation time on their hands. They're looking for something to do. We've had some neighboring municipalities who have opened beaches but didn't open up their washroom facilities or their shower facilities, and that drove people like the tourist operator out of Sigmund who brought people up here, because obviously you'd rather go to a nice beach with washroom facilities than go to a beach with no facilities that are open. I think our neighboring municipalities have now opened up their facilities, I understand. So that should take some of that pressure off, I hope, and you won't have operators bringing 20 people at once into it. I'm hesitant to I always think of sometimes you do something with the best intentions, but you end up, in this case, I could see where all of a sudden now someone whose only recreation is a chance to go to Georgian Bay, go for a swim, but they're not from McDougall. And I kind of hate to put that restriction on. My recommendation would be at this point in time, we see if it is just this window in time and all the factors that have been created with it, and then see what happens down the road. We're going to take some precautions, I understand, in terms of the boat dock that's there. That's been incurring some of it. We're tightening up the bylaw so that trucks and trailers can't be there. That'll get rid of some of that activity that's there as well. So I mean, my recommendation would be at this point, we just take a wait and see attitude on it. Like, no one down there is breaking the law in terms of being there as a non-resident, because we don't have any bylaw that says they can't be there at this point. So no one's doing anything wrong that way. But I'd like to see a wait and see. I wouldn't want to pass the bylaw and then find out that it really wasn't a long-term problem that we thought, even though we could change the bylaw at a later date for doing it. So for my 2 cents worth, I'd like to see us just take a wait and see if some of the changes we are inputting and some of the changes to our neighboring municipalities will all sort of come together to try and take some of that pressure off to let people enjoy it. But that would be my recommendation on it. I'll take the chair back from Councillor Constable. So I guess I'll just, at this point, I've heard some various opinions there, like just by a show of hands, does anyone at this point in time want us to enter into to have staff prepare a change to our bylaw in terms of who can access Nobel Beach? Is anyone in favor of having the bylaw changed at this point? No. Okay. So at this point, good discussion. It's on our radar screen. I'm sure staff will be diligent in terms of keeping an eye down there and just see what's happening and what our changes we have made will make. And then I'm sure we'll visit this again if the situation continues. Mr. Leduc?
Your worship, just to confirm, I did speak with every one of the neighboring community emergency management coordinators on Monday, and they all did confirm that for the ones that did not have washrooms open before this week, they all were opening somewhat of a washroom facility at their beaches starting this week. And for the ones that did have opens, like Town of Prairie Sound, they already had their washroom facilities open at Newtown Beach. So I suspect that we may see a change of use coming up, since the other areas have opened up washrooms at their waterfronts.
Okay, thank you. Under recreation matters arising, I think we have an email in from a ratepayer, which is kind of related to the busyness of Nobel Beach, where they've noticed a lot more traffic and speeding going on Big Sound Road. This is West.
And that's scheduled for under Public Works.
Under Public Works, okay. So are there any matters arising then under recreation? Okay. Public Works, oh, here we go. Item 11.1 from Cindy Tyndall, 59 Big Sound Road, request for speed bumps on Big Sound Road. This is West.
Just to bring to council's attention, 2 further emails were forwarded today from residents on Big Sound Road who do not feel the same and would prefer that speed bumps not be located on Big Sound Road.
Okay. Any comments or recommendations from staff? Mr. Hunt?
Yeah, we've had this discussion about speed bumps on municipal roads in the past. This particular road, I think speed bumps would be more of a danger than a help. The speed limit on that road is 50 kilometers an hour. It is a windy road. Putting speed bumps on any road that's 50 kilometers an hour or more is it's just too dangerous. So I understand Mrs. Tyndall's concerns. Every time we rebuild a road and pave it, you're going to get some activity like that there, and the beach is drawing a bit more traffic than it normally would. So as per the last conversation, I think if the traffic slows down because the other facilities are open, that may help. But at this time, I would recommend the council to not consider putting speed bumps on there. It's too risky for the smaller vehicles. It's too risky for motorcycles. I think I think that's just going to be a bigger problem than we could ever imagine.
Comments from, questions from council? All right, Councillor Ryman.
Sorry, thanks, Your Worship. I agree with Mr. Hunt. There's a place for speed bumps. They do serve a purpose at in the right locations. I know in past experiences that I've had with speed bumps, there have been a bicycler hurt bad, and the prospective town was sued and lost because there was a lot of damage done to the individual. I think that one of the letters that we did receive from a repair on Big Sound Road draws a lot of merit with regards to there are various ways that we can help mitigate the speed on there. Perhaps lowering the speed limit. There is such thing, gets a little costly. The OPP do paid duty on weekends once in a while, where they specifically stay on Big Sound Road. There's, I guess there's probably different ways that we could probably do markings on the road to try to persuade people to slow down. But at this point in time, because of the multi-use of the road, there's vehicles, there's walkers, and there's also bicyclers. Once again, there's a right place for speed bumps, and I agree with Mr. Hunt. I think this isn't the right place for them. I think there are other measures that we could probably entertain for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Mr. Hunt?
So to follow up on Mr. Ryan's comments there. One of the problems right now is the painted lines aren't done yet. The painting truck hasn't come. We're hoping to have it shortly. But once we get the lines painted on, and it narrows the lanes, the sidewalks aren't painted on either, so the markings aren't on for the pedestrians to move around in. So once those are all in, and it becomes, right now it looks like a NASCAR thing right now, because you've got 45 or 50 feet to run on. Once the painted lines are, I think this will slow people down as well. Right now, you can kind of move around the track as you put into your speed, but when the lines are on, it definitely slows people down. And when you put the pedestrian line on with the markers for pedestrians, traffic, it helps a lot too. So I think if they could just be patient for a little bit until we get the project completed, it'll calm down considerably.
Any questions or comments? Okay. I'm not hearing any support for speed bumps from any council. And with our environment, you'd have to have a speed bump that you put in and took back out again, because obviously we plow our roads a few months of the year, sometimes more months than others. But so definitely you couldn't have them there for that situation. And I know the speed bumps, there are speed bumps out there that you can install, take back out again, but then you're adding a lot of wear and tear to your roads as well when you have that kind of system on it. So it sounds like our response, I guess, in terms of the request for speed bumps is that we're not going to be doing that on Big Sound Road. From a couple of the other ratepayer suggestions, I mean, maybe it would be good to just put it on to advise the OPP that we are having some complaints about speeding on Big Sound, to add it to the list of some other roads. I know when the complaints about Nobel Road got passed along, there's been a lot more enforcement on Nobel Road. So if we could pass that along to the OPP as well, whether it's from the CAO or from our CPAC representative, Councillor Ryman, on that, then we can let them know the situation. Changing speed limits doesn't seem to make any difference. If people are going to go fast, they don't really look at the sign anyway. They're going to, whether they go 40 or 50 or whatever, they're just going to do what they're going to do. So but enforcement of the 50 would certainly help a lot. And as Mr. Hunt points out, once the lines are done, then maybe that'll make a bit of a difference on there as well. I mean, obviously it's in every neighborhood, you're going to have those who are in favor and those who are against it, but it's word obviously got out pretty fast to a couple of ratepayers that responded to the negative on this one. So at this point then, Mrs. Tyndall has asked for a response, so we can respond back to her decision of council.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Item 11.2, report of the Public Works Manager 2020-5 monthly report. Mr. Thompson?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. My report is pretty much self-explanatory. A lot of things have already been covered on it. I have a few things to add. Just to touch up with the line painting on Big Sound, we are scheduled to have that road painted with the white line sort of walking area at the beginning of next week. Also, there's a few driveways that have to be completed. That's hopefully going to be completed next week as well. If council has any other questions in my report, other than that, we have a sand tender in the agenda, and I've been working with Fowlers on the power towel repairs. That is have been set. I don't have an actual date, but there's quite a few repairs that need to be completed out there for the damages that Power Towel / Henvey Inlet project. Also, our roads need study is going very well. Pretty excited about it, and looking forward to getting more results on that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Mr. Thompson's report. I did note the traffic lines out there for doing the traffic count on various roads, as there's several ratepayers who were asking what we're doing. So it looks like from the report here, there'll be a second count done in the fall, and then there'll be a report generated from those numbers.
Yes, the first count has been completed. As of this morning, the last of the traffic counters have been collected up, and there will be an additional count done in the fall to complete the study.
Okay. Any other questions? No. All right. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
11.3 for the Public Works Manager, granite screenings tender recommendation. Put the resolution on the table, moved by Councillor Ryman, second by Councillor Constable, that the Council for the Municipality of McDougall approve the tender for 2020 wash granite screening submitted by Fowler Construction in the amount of $59,925 plus HST. Discussion. Mr. Thompson, maybe just how many tenders were received?
For the wash screenings, only one tender was received. Just due to the fact that Fowler's is pretty much the only one in the area that will do the wash screenings, and that's what we are asking for.
Okay, and this amount falls within our budgeted amount? Yep. Yes. Okay, any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. Any matters arising under Public Works?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Environment, Waste Management, report of the Environmental Services Supervisor, 5-2020, Environmental Services Report. Mr. Goldman?
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce in the report that we're still following all the COVID procedures with our staff, and that's been going well. As far as the landfill leachate facility, with the dry conditions, we have reduced flow rates there. Things have been going well. We've been meeting compliance points. We only had one minor repair item with an anoxic mixer. The no-bill water system, again, has been functioning well. 2 new services were installed on the lots on Murray Point Road, just after the tracks, and coordinated with the Public Works Department for the paving to happen at that location, and several other places where there was water services in the road that needed to be repaired. that's been completed now. As far as Crawford Septic goes, we did complete inspections of the sewer system, and there were no violations found, and no blockages or issues. The seasonal flows are very low and lower than normal right now. That's all for my report. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Actually, your sound did get a little bit hollow there and echoey, part of your report there, but I think everyone could hear him. I'm not sure where the, Councilor Millat, Councilor Gregory, you're able to hear that report all right? Okay, good. Any questions or comments? No. No. All right, I'll just comment. I'm not sure who the paving contractor was who did fix the spots on Murray Point after you put the new valves in and the new water line connections. And I see the culverts were fixed by Public Works as well, but it's one of the smoother transitions I've seen done on a road. It's almost seamless when you drive through there now in terms of doing it. So it was a good paving job. I don't know what's underneath all that, but I'm sure you gentlemen made sure that what's underneath was just as good as well. So that's good.
I can't take any credit for that. Nick was coordinating all that.
Okay. Right. If there's no other questions, then that's good. Thank you, Mr. Bowman.
Okay.
Matters arising in environment? No. Finance, accounts payable, moved by Councilor Millat, seconded by Councilor Gregory, that the attached list of accounts payable for July 1st, 2020 in the amount of $379,614.31 and July 16, 2020 in the amount of $235,393.40 and payroll for July 2nd, 2020 in the amount of $45,285.60 and July 16, 2020 in the amount of $74,339.27 be approved for payment. Discussion? All's in favor? It's carried. In the District of Prairie Sound, West Belvedere Heights, the 2019 financial statement. Any questions or comments? No, okay. See for information. Item 3 from Alan Doney, Assistant Deputy Minister, Provincial Local Finance Division, Ministry of Finance, deferral of education, property tax payments. It's there for information. Any matters arising under finance? No. Administration, item 14.1, Georgian Bay Biosphere Reserve, Explore Our Shores Summer Webinar Series. Information. Item 14.2, the Corporation of the Town of Thessalon, support of McDougall Resolution 2020-64, agreeing with the opinion that DSAB board should not be overseeing the Northern Ontario Provincial Police Departments. And item 14.3, similar support from the Township of the Archipelago, agreeing that the DSAB should not oversee Northern Ontario Police Departments. And item 4, support from the Township of Armour, supporting our resolution, agreeing with the opinion that social services should not be overseeing the Northern Ontario Police Departments. Mrs. West?
Just further to that, I received a number of other supports, so I will forward them to council as they're received rather than filling the agenda with them all, but it's being well received.
Okay. I know, I'm not sure if it's coming up later or not, but I think it is from Phonom, from Mac Bain, the director there, was asking if we had any input into the policing recommendation.
It
Mrs.
wasn't
West?
put on the agenda simply because I had forwarded it to council in advance, but the deadline would have been before our meeting today.
Oh, the deadline for the Phonom was before tonight?
For their input, yeah.
For their input, okay. Maybe just as an afterthought, if you could maybe just send our resolution and send those that have supported ours just to Mr. Bain, so he has it anyway in case it's.
We received it when we passed it, and
Okay.
he provided me with the background information that I brought forward again to council after. So, and I know everybody that has been, the other municipalities that have been supporting us with this resolution have been including him in the correspondence.
Okay, good. So he knows then. Okay, thank you. Item 14.5, Lori McDevitt, asking for a mask bylaw to be passed by the Municipality of McDougall. Mrs. West.
Further to Ms. Devitt's request, the health unit has made a mandate, or has issued a mandate for all public places to require masks to be worn. The mandate will be in effect July 24th, and we'll receive more information on the 17th. You'll see further in the agenda, there's a number of correspondence under committee reports that also apply to the mask request, but the most up-to-date information is that the mandate has been ordered.
Okay, thank you. Guess there's no need for council to weigh in on this issue then. It's been, which I think properly so. I mean, it's a larger area to have a patchwork of bylaws, all different wordings, and one set of rules here and another set of rules there would be very difficult for people to understand, let alone the enforcement of this bylaw would have been extremely, although I understand the intent behind the request, which is the safety of our community. So, I mean, it's good that the health unit is taking this seriously and proceeding. So we'll leave it in their hands. Unless council has any other comment on that particular issue. Okay. Item 6 from Mayor McGarvey, Town of Prairie Sound, publishing of infectious disease statistics by district health units. Comments? I think we've all made this ask of the health units, and it's kind of fallen on deaf ears in terms of trying to get more specific information. I think we all are in agreement with our neighboring municipalities that more specific information would be well received by our ratepayers without actually disclosing anyone's privacy in terms of who the actual individual was. When you look at the other side, individual organizations are very quick to let you know very specifically almost in terms of when something happens, which is good. I know Belvedere was quick to make it known to the public when there was a couple incidents there, and the health center as well. So, and the OPP when they had one of their officers as well. So, I mean, it's, the organizations are doing it. So why the health unit couldn't be a little bit more specific with us and on our requests. But anyway, we've all asked. Item 7, Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act. Information on the stages. Jeff Urick, Minister of Environment, Conservation, Parks, Attachment, Environmental Assessment, Modernization. Comments from staff or there for information?
There for information. It's further to the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act, where their plan is to reduce red tape. The Bill 197 that the previous correspondent spoke to is still in second reading debate. So as more information becomes available, we will provide it to council. I just received a 188-page explanation report on the act, so we have a little bit of work to do.
Okay, thank you. And item 9 for the Township of Siglin, rezoning application 2020-0005, which is a housekeeping update to for that particular property. Is that correct? West.
Your worship, this is just similar to what we did before, housekeeping that affects a number of properties and some of the language in their zoning bylaw. I've reviewed it and there's nothing here that would adversely affect McDougall.
Okay, thank you. Any matters arising under administration? Okay. Request for support, City of Sarnia, long-term care improvements. Councilor Gregory.
There we go. Okay, Your Worship, just to let you know, I guess from one of the councillors that's on Belvedere's board from the town, they're developing another letter that is more specific and more detailed than what this one is. Just for your information, I'm sure you'll get it eventually. That's all.
there any benefit to McDougall supporting this one as well?
We can, but I'm sure we'll probably support the other one too. It just takes it a bit further. But
Okay,
it'll be a while coming, so
we'll bring this one forward to the next meeting then.
Doug will
Yep,
at the town.
okay. Town of Bracebridge resolution regarding the establishment of a municipal financial assistance program to offset the financial impact of COVID-19 pandemic. No support. Corporation of the Town of Renfrew requests that the governments of Ontario and Canada fast track the review of current and previous Investing in Canada infrastructure program grant applications in order to improve much needed employment and investment in rural Ontario. I think that one's worth supporting. Bring it forward. Municipality of West Elgin requests that the Ontario provincial government and the federal government implement a universal basic income for citizens. No support. Town of Prairie Sound recommend that the North Bay Prairie Sound District Health Unit issue an order mandating the wearing of masks when in commercial establishment. That's a redundant request at this point, given what the health unit is doing. Any matters arising under request for support? Seeing none. Not aware of any motions which notice been previously given. Item 17, committee reports. North Bay Prairie Sound District Health Unit, news release, harmful blue-green algae in Tucker Lake. From the health unit, COVID-19 outbreak at Belvedere Heights and Prairie Sound. From the health unit, COVID-19 outbreak at Water's Edge in North Bay. From the health unit, face coverings recommended when physical distancing is a challenge. From the health unit consultation to mandate face coverings. From the health unit, July 9, 2020, response to the Prairie Sound Mayor and Council regarding face coverings. And item 7, from the Prairie Sound Public Library, reopening posters. Attachment there, take a look at. Information, any other matters arising? Councilor Ryman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just regarding the OPP, Jeremy McDonald is staying with the detachment, but will be stepping down from commander. He's being replaced by a person by the name of Carolyn Dion, but he will be maintaining his current position where he is with the detachment. So I think he'll still be involved with the CPAP, stuff like that. So just for information.
Okay, thank you. Any other matters arising? Any reports?
Councilor Gregory?
Oh, Councilor Gregory, sorry.
You got to keep your head up here. Anyway,
But up and-
Belvedere is testing this week, Your Worship. Everything is still all negative. The facility is still shut down. There's really no outbreak, but it is still within the 2-week period that it has to be closed for. So opposed to what the Mr. Ford has said, we're not opening up wide right now. And then with the library, they had discussions. We had face-to-face in a presentation this last week about pay equity, and hopefully that has all been resolved now as far as the library is concerned. It shouldn't, they're able to cover all the financial points that are involved with that. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Any matters arising in the committee reports? Item 18, report of the CEO, Mr. Hunt. I know it's been a long night for you. You have that injured leg you're trying to deal with there.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So the office is open to the public now. Traffic is low, so we're doing rather well. Staff are back to normal operations. You notice at the front counter now, you have to have your hand wash stations right away. We also today implemented a login, so anybody comes in the building, logs in with the time and date. So if there is an incident, we have a record of who we've been communicating with. So generally the office is back to normal. I do have a few comments on the Georgetown Boat Launch and the beach as well. So at Georgetown, excuse me, enforcement will be stepped up a little bit. We've been doing, I think once a day, that may go up to twice a day at times. Parking ticket increases will happen now. The fines for parking will be doubled. They were $27. They're going to go down to $55 now for parking without a permit. We've been very patient for the last 2 months with people with not having permits. We went through 3.5 weeks of warning people and educating people. We've gone through another 2 or 3 weeks of keeping the tickets to a minimum. We're not gaining a whole lot of ground. So the tickets will go back to being $55, I believe, for parking at Georgetown. The tickets will also be on a per day basis. We've also been very flexible with the public when it comes to the fines and tickets. Up till now, if you were there for the weekend, you got 1 ticket. If you're there for Saturday and Sunday, you're getting 2 tickets now. It's unbelievable how much parking we have at Georgetown all of a sudden. So, and we are having some issues with local people not being able to use the facility that they pay for. So hopefully this will help out. Similarly, at the Mobile Beach, we've addressed that fairly well at the beginning of the meeting. I think that's settled now. The one issue that we talked about, but I wasn't very clear on, was the dock. I think to prevent this drop off and pickup, the dock should just be removed for the balance of the summer. That would eliminate, the short circuiting of the system in any way. Without the swim program, we don't need the dock. That's basically why the dock is there, to support the swim program. We don't have it this year. So to stop that short circuiting for the drop off and pickups with the boat in the parking lot, I think we just remove the dock. So I'm not sure how council feels about that. You want to finish that discussion before I move on, maybe? We're going to just finish it.
Council, have any comments? Any further comments? We've already kind of went back and forth in terms of everyone's opinion of Nobel Beach. I guess the only thing new here is the removal of the dock from it. So is anyone opposed to the dock being removed from the beach area? It's really the only new question here. No, I'm not seeing anyone who's opposed to it, so you can take it as a direction of council to proceed with that.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, I have been at the beach and it is busy. We beat that one to death, so we'll see. The COVID is causing some problems. I think it will settle down. I've not seen or heard anything from the province about the pool facility to date. We did have that bit of a flurry there a while ago about getting some of our votes together to see if we're all supportive of it. We haven't heard a word since. We did have a meeting today in the pool, the CAOs. Just to bring you up to date, we are working on a management setup as to how it'll be run. It'll be probably a corporation setup. That's what we're looking at right now. We thought about a board, we thought about a corporation. I think generally a corporation is going to be better for operating and managing. It'll be a lot less cumbersome for a corporation to operate. You're not running back to 7 councils to get approval for everything. So corporation would allow you to set up a committee. Probably more than likely the mayors or council members in that committee of the corporation. So we're going to go through that right now. We are going to have a lawyer review a couple of drafts just to see what we got. We do have the funding, enough funding left over out of our 170,000 we've set aside to do some pool investigations and stuff like that there. So we'll be taking that out of there. So we are moving forward in hopes that we do get approval. Our economic development officer position, it did close on July the 10th. We have over 30 applications come in at the end. Today we set up a committee, or last week we set up a committee for myself, Clayton Harris from Telefair Sound, and Michelle Henry from Whitestone, to get that down to 3 or 4 for the 7 of us to decide on. So that'll happen next week. Keeping in mind that the funding for the position still hasn't come through from Fedor. Fedor did say it would happen shortly to continue with the process. He wouldn't guarantee it, but he said it's 99% expectation to get the funding for the EDO position. So that'll be good to get somebody in that position to help the people get back into business here. Generally, staff have been extremely cooperative and supportive of the operational direction that the municipality has taken. We've made it very clear to staff that at any time, if they're worried about their safety or anything that we are currently doing, they feel that they're at risk, we will address it immediately. So today we have these talks, not daily, but weekly. So I think we're on the right path. We seem to be following the province's road to recovery. I think we've been a step ahead of the province all along. If everything we've done, we've copied, so I don't know who's reading who here, but I think we're doing okay. So the only recommendation we have for Mobile Beach is that staff monitor Mobile Beach for social distancing, and that the overnight parking be enforced there as well. Other than that, things are going quite well here. Programs are running smoothly, our operations are running smoothly, our taxpayers appear to be happy, our complaints are limited to none, so I think we're doing okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hunt, any questions or comments from council? Councilor Ryman?
Thank you, Worship. I was just wondering, has it been exactly determined where the pool is going to go yet?
Mr. Hunt?
For all intents and purposes, it has. The pool committee has spent all the time and effort on the Y site. All the engineering has been done there. The borehole testing for the building construction has been done there. It is the only site in consideration at this point. Thank you.
And just to add to that, the reason it got to that site was that there were 4 sites in the running, and that was given to the architects and the engineers to do a professional job of evaluating the sites. And they very loud and clearly came back and said that the existing Y site was by far the preferred site, and actually said some of those other sites would not be suitable for it at all. So that's what then led to the due diligence in terms of investigating that site to go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any questions on Mr. Hunt's report? Okay, I'll just, at this point, just a shout out to our staff for having worked through and continuing to work through a very difficult time. Even this, setting up Zoom meetings and dealing with that way, dealing with the public. But I mean, actually, I think staff has done an excellent job of keeping it almost seamless from the outside looking in at McDougall in terms of our day-to-day operations. I mean, we just completed a large roads project on it, and all the other programs are continuing as well that we can within our means. So I think, and now the office is back open and on it. So anyway, just on behalf of council and the ratepayers, a thank you to staff for all the effort you put in, for all that you're doing. It's noticeable. Thank you. General items and new business. Bylaws, moved by Councillor Constable, second by Councillor Gregory, that bylaw 2020-36 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2020-09 as amended to regulate parks, parkland, facilities, and municipal owned lands within the corporation of Municipality of McDougall be introduced and read a first and second time. Discussion. All those in favor? It's carried. Pleasure of council to give this third and final reading tonight. Moved by Councilor Malat, second by Councilor Ryman, that bylaw 2020-36 be read a third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any final discussion? All those in favor? Carried. No items for the tracking sheet, no items for closed session. Confirmation bylaw, moved by Councilor Malat, seconded by Councilor Ryman, that bylaw 2020-37 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the committee council meeting held on July 15, 2020, be introduced and read a first and second time. Discussion, all those in favor? It's carried. Moved by Councilor Constable, second by Councilor Gregory, that bylaw 2020-37 be read a third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Final discussion, all those in favor? It's carried. Moved by Councilor Malat, second by Councilor Gregory, that we do now adjourn at 8:16 p.m. All those in favor? It's carried. Good night and be safe, everyone.
Right.